This is True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. I'm your host, Daria Anne, ghostwriter, content strategist, and holistic health warrior. No, I'm not a doctor, nurse, nutritionist, or any kind of medical professional, and this show does not dispense medical advice. I'm just an informed patient sharing what I've learned on my own healing journey. I also interview accomplished authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and functional medicine practitioners who are transforming lives. If you're ready to break free from the sick care system, reclaim your health, and transform your life, you're in the right place. Let's get unfiltered. Welcome to True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. And I am so excited. I have a wonderful guest with me today. His name is Dr. Harry Kemp. And before I introduce him, I'm just going to go ahead and read a little bit of his bio. Dr. Kemp has an accredited financial analyst designation from the Global Academy of Finance and Management. He brings specialized knowledge and expertise in financial analysis to his work as a professor and mentor. His multifaceted background and experience as a SCORE mentor, that's Service Corps of Retired Executives, make him a valuable resource for entrepreneurs and small business owners seeking to grow and overcome challenges. Dr. Kemp's dedication to education, research, and professional development makes him a distinguished professional in his field. And I am very honored, Dr. Kemp, and to welcome you to True Voice Unfiltered. And I know we said we could be a little less formal, so I'm going to refer to you as Harry, but I wanted to make sure that I addressed you by your title in the introduction. So welcome to the show. I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Great. It's great to be here, Daria. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Your True Voice story, I'm going to say, starts 37 years ago then when you were a firefighter. So you've been making a difference in people's lives for a long time. So Harry, tell us a little bit about your background, and then we are definitely going to talk about your latest book.
Okay. Well, I guess we can start with I'm actually a retired fire rescue officer of 25 years, but I've been retired almost 10 years. And before that,
This is True Voice
right,
Unfiltered,
I was
the
a
podcast
college
where raw
basketball
truth meets
player,
real transformation.
and
I'm your host,
and I
Daria
played a
Anne,
little bit of professional
ghostwriter, content
basketball
strategist,
overseas,
and
but I've
holistic health
always
warrior.
been
No,
a
I'm not a doctor,
lifetime
nurse,
learner,
nutritionist, or any
you
kind of
know,
medical
and
professional,
I
and this
received
show
my
does not
AA
dispense
degree
medical
back in
advice. I'm just an
1981,
informed patient sharing what
so
I've
that
learned on
dates
my own
me.
healing
But
journey. I also interview accomplished
as a
authors,
firefighter, I
speakers,
saw a lot
entrepreneurs, and functional
of
medicine
you know,
practitioners who are transforming
destruction and
lives.
a lot of
If you're
good
ready
things
to
too, but a
break
lot
free
of
from the
natural
sick care
destruction
system,
and a lot of
reclaim your health, and
businesses
transform your life,
failing
you're in the right place. Let's get
because they
unfiltered.
were not prepared for these type of events. And so over the years, I um, I just documented certain events that I saw, especially ones that were like, out of the ordinary. And once I finished my career, I just decided to go back to school and get my doctorate degree. I have a MBA from Jacksonville University with a concentration in finance and accounting. But I just felt the need to go back and get the doctorate because I wanted to teach on the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing it, I said, okay, what will keep my interest as far as writing a dissertation? And when I thought about it, I said, okay, I have all this experience in public safety, and why don't I just try to marry the two together and see if I could come up with something that would be, um, you know, helpful to the community. And here we are.
Here we are. Yes, you've worn a lot of different hats. And it seems like what's been the common thread? To me, it seems like, Harry, you've had a heart for service for others, and certainly after reading your book, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But what do you feel is the common thread between all the different hats that you've worn in your professional career?
Right. So for me, it certainly goes back to um, giving something back to my community and just trying to make the world a better place. I As I talked about me being a college athlete, I had a high school teammate of mine that one summer when we were in our 20s suffered a heart attack.
Oh
And
gosh.
no one was there to do adequate CPR, and he passed away. And that stuck with me. And I said, I'll never live another day without trying to have skills that can help people. And so for me, the common thread is just to try to, help humanity and try to bridge the gap to prevent any type of disaster if I can, whether it be man-made or just natural, you know, uh, from a human point of view.
Well, and I certainly admire you for turning such a tragedy into purpose, if you will, and kind of using that grief and channeling it into ways to help other people. And you've certainly done that. And I love the title of your book, From Vulnerable to Victorious: How Small Businesses Can Survive and Thrive After Disaster. So can you tell us where you got that title, and actually why did you decide to write a book now?
Well, my dissertation chair, I will you know, throw her into this mix. She had been on me for several years about writing a follow-up book to my dissertation. And I thought about it and I said, I guess, that would be good. And so looking at all of the natural disasters that we've had since my dissertation, I said, well, maybe I do need to write a follow-up. And when I saw all of the downloads from my dissertation worldwide, it just blew me away, right? And when I saw companies like Oracle and Starbucks downloading my dissertation, I said, well,
Wow.
maybe I should, write a follow-up. And so that's where this stemmed from. And of course, the title, um, I will say, I have to put here, it really stems from interviews that I did during my research, showing the people that were just so vulnerable to these natural disasters, and but they were able to, through resilience, persevere and survive and overcome them, and become victorious.
And I want to just correct myself here. The full title is From Vulnerable to Victorious: How Small Businesses Can Survive and Thrive After Disaster. And Harry, well,
Yes,
one of the many things I loved about your book, which is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback, so I will share those links in the show description so everyone can check it out. But I love how you actually incorporated, there's a couple of theories that you share in the book that I found very interesting. Um, why don't you tell us a little bit about those two theories? Because what I loved about the book is you sort of gave sort of the background for why people either do prepare or don't prepare for disaster. And
mm-hmm.
I found that fascinating. And then we'll get into some real stories of some actual business owners that you share in the book.
Great, yeah. So I used to, and these are just two that I chose, but there are other um, frameworks out there that one could use. But the theory of planned behavior resonated with me because when you are planning for such disasters, right, you it's like you have to have a a reason to plan, right? Because a lot of people just don't plan because they don't have that want to attitude, right? And so with the theory of planned behavior, it's a framework framed around purposeful, planned intentions to prepare for a incident through your behavior. And with vested interest, I will say a lot of times you can write a dissertation with just one theory, but I used two because I felt like it encapsulated what I wanted to present. And so with vested interest, it deals with someone that has a vested stake in whatever is going on in their business in this instance, right? So it's more about business owners probably more so than managers of a business, because business owners have a vested interest in that business, right? And so their actions are based on their investment of their time, their effort, their all of their resources that they have plugged into these businesses.
Yes, and you also state in the book, and this is so true, that like small businesses in a community are so much more than just a business, whether it's a cafe or a hair salon, or and you define, I believe, small businesses as like 500 employees or less. But
Right.
it really is like the backbone. I mean, and I think in the book too, one of the things that stood out to me was when you talked about um, the benefits of not just opening, like being prepared, and we're going to talk about that as well,
Mhm.
and sort of like the blueprint you lay out for business owners to be able to prepare for disaster because it will happen. The only question is when. None of
Exactly.
us are, I live in Florida too. I'm in Central Florida. So I am, and
Right.
I've been there since 1994. So I've lived through a lot of hurricanes and natural disasters. So, but I think the point you make that I found so interesting was just how sometimes it's a lifeline for people, a small business after a hurricane. Like if you're a cafe and you've prepared well and you can open the next day, it kind of gives people hope that they can make it through the challenges they're facing in the aftermath of tragedy. So speak to us a
Yes.
little bit about that, a little more.
Right. So in my research, I discovered in interviewing business owners that a lot of their businesses are like the anchor or the cornerstone of that community. And so it gives them a sense of, togetherness and a sense of community. And so these businesses are not just for profit, entities, but they are social gathering places where people can go and talk about, whatever happened during the storm. My roof needs fixing, or whatever the case may be. Or if they need, just charging their cell phone or whatever the case may be. A lot of these places are that, place of just security, and it gives them a sense of normalcy during a chaotic moment.
Oh, and I can absolutely relate to that. Let me just interject. Years ago, Hurricane Wilma, I believe that was 2005. It was like the
Hmm.
end of October, and I was in Southeast Boca Raton at the time. And I mean, I lost power for like 2 weeks, and I was able to walk. There was a local diner down the road that I was able to walk to that had a generator. They were like the only place that was actually open. And it just felt so good to meet a friend there because you just feel so isolated in the aftermath of
Exactly.
those storms. So, I mean, and that's just one of many examples I could point to in my own life. So, yeah, what you're
Yes.
saying is really true. And I think people, you're so you, in many cases, people are like friends with a lot of these small business owners. They know them by name, they
Absolutely.
may know their families,
Yes.
and just seeing them functioning and able to open up after the storm is a big source of comfort. And as you said, like a place to kind of convene and talk to other people about what they're dealing with. Oh, I got to, I've got to file an insurance claim, or, my screen blew
Right.
off, whatever it is. And it does help to have, I mean, that community is not that only does it help, it's so vital
It
from an
is.
emotional standpoint as
Yes.
well. So, um,
Yes.
how does the book, it also serves as like a step-by-step guide. And I know you pointed out, you lay out the reasons why so many small business owners and businesses struggle, like from not having the right insurance to maybe not knowing the resources available to them at the local, state, and federal levels. So let's talk about that first. And then I also want you to share some case studies of resilience that you've witnessed.
Right. Yeah. So in my book, I go into detail into building a step-by-step, like actionable plan to help recover, prepare from a natural disaster. And what I do is I go in and I give you examples of successful small business owners and their techniques or steps in how they plan and survive a natural disaster. And so I look at it as a framework to build a conceptual framework, if you will, to build some type of continuity or business continuity plan that will be actionable, right? That you can take it from the page and put it into practice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And I mean, I'm sorry, I will edit this out, Harry. I lost my train of thought here.
No
So
problem, no
I think,
problem.
so, one of the things though, it's interesting that like, you brought up insurance as maybe people don't have the right insurance, and you share some problems and also solutions. And I know that in a lot of cases, I mean, it's happened to me where you think you have like coverage for a certain thing in your insurance plan, and it turns out you don't. And those can get very complicated. And also maybe not know that there are resources around. So your book
Right,
also tells people like, hey, here's what you do, or offer solutions as to how sort of the community as a whole, like the local government leaders, can act as resources for small business owners. And I believe you
right.
mentioned a webinar or maybe it was actually an in-person presentation that someone did to really help.
Mhm.
And the importance of business owners and vendors and everyone involved in a business sort of having that relationship of that spirit of cooperation where they can help each other out.
Right, right. And so um, with my dissertation, it actually won like Dissertation of the Year award. And I think one of the reasons why it won that award is because I developed a framework, a conceptual framework that included um, partnerships with your local community and your services that the city provides. Also, having friends and family there to help you rebuild, especially if it's like minor damage that you can do on your own. Having that group of people there to help you after the storm. And I also believe that having cash reserves on hand, because let's face it, the banks may be closed, you just may not have access to cash. But during these storms, maybe 24 hours, maybe 48 hours after, a lot of times public safety will allow, important people to come into the community to help, see what's going on or maybe start rebuilding. And so if you have these resources on hand, right, um, it has, through the research that I've done, showed that businesses can restart faster, right? So you have those friends and family there, you have the cash on hand, and you have a relationship with local partners, your
Yeah.
utility sources, people like that. You have a better chance of rebuilding faster. And the faster you rebuild, of course, the better it is for you and your customers, right? Because now your customers, have a place to go and they don't have to go somewhere else, and you possibly lose some of your customers, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. And it keeps the local economy going also, because
absolutely.
you mentioned in the book how critical that is. Um,
Yes.
and you mentioned financial reserves, cash reserves. That's one of the barriers, right, that you mentioned in the book that prevents business owners from planning. So how do you help them make that mind shift from, I have razor thin profit margins. I don't have a lot of money to do this. It's how do you help them make that shift, or what do you think is needed to
Right.
make that shift?
Well, I think you have to have continuous planning uh, ongoing, right? And so if you can set aside 2%, of your cash revenue and just have a nest egg, because especially if you're living in Florida, it's not a matter of if, but when there's
Exactly.
going to be some type of, situation. So if you can reserve, maybe 5%, 2% of your reserves monthly, right? Even on those razor thin margins, over time, you can build up a cash reserve. And trust me, from what I saw after some of these natural disasters, you would be really, really satisfied and happy that you did that. but just over time, don't make it a difficult task, but just try to save, a couple percent here and there, and it will add up.
Yeah, sure. Especially over the long term, because we all know you dodge the bullet for so long. It might even be 10 years that you dodge the bullet, but eventually it's going to happen. And if you can,
Yes,
I like that, like, small little bites, and maybe set aside a
right.
special savings account, whether it's 2%, 3%,
Yes,
5%. And I like, one of the other things I liked was you gave an example of a business where they actually had like a plan as far as like what employees were going to be responsible for certain tasks, like when they knew disaster was coming. And I believe they had it laminated and it was in the break room. Like,
right,
talk a little bit about that because I know you also make the distinction in your book that like unlike a big corporation where this stuff is just a given, they
right.
already have these policies in place. Most small businesses
They
don't.
don't.
So let's talk about
They
like the
don't.
the human resources that small businesses should employ to prepare.
Right, right. So yeah, and putting that laminated plan over the break room clock is a ideal place because when it's time to go get off work or take a break, you're gonna see that clock and you're gonna see that laminated uh, plan there. But yeah, you should practice having a plan and an actionable plan in place. And I got that from when I was a firefighter. I would go to high schools and other private schools, and we do these fire drills. And when you plan for the unexpected, eventually it becomes second nature, right? But you also have to have that theory of planned behavior that goes back to my theoretical framework. You have to have that mindset, and you have to build that into you and your employees, right? And so by giving them specific tasks, you kind of give them some type of vested interest that goes along with my other theory. You give them that vested interest in being prepared for these natural disasters.
Yeah, and I think it also, yeah, it gives them a sense maybe of ownership in the company in a sense
Yes,
that, you trust them to be able to execute when the time comes. So I think it's really good for morale too, in a sense.
it is. It is. It absolutely is because the more vested interest and ownership employees have, the more they are possibly inclined to be prepared for natural disasters and just help manage the business outright. And a lot of times you have what's called an entrepreneurial mindset, I guess, where you want your internal customers or employees to feel like they're part owners of this business, right? Because that gives them more vested interest, and especially if you can take ideas from them in making this plan, they feel like they are a part of it, right? And so that's another key area that you want to do is listen to your employees and take ideas that you can use to help develop this plan.
Yeah, and it seems like it also fosters like long-time loyalty and maybe a
Yes,
longer tenure for employees when you do that as
sustainability.
well.
Yes, yeah, it
Yeah,
ties right into sustainability, right, and resilience,
yeah.
which are some key purposeful words that I put into the book.
No, that's awesome. So, Harry, I mentioned a little while ago about like just local, state, and federal resources. What can small businesses do first to like learn about what resources are available to them? In addition to them planning and saving, as we discussed, many
Mhm.
times after disaster, I think a lot of people are, as you point out in the book, many people are unaware that there are resources available to them. So, what are
Right,
some things they can do to become aware of the resources that may be available and also to maybe take advantage of some of them or use
right.
them to help rebuild?
Yes, yes. So you can contact your local chamber of commerce, and they will be happy to help you plan for these disasters that are inevitable, and especially here in Florida. And normally just before hurricane season, which starts somewhere around June 1st and it ends somewhere around November 30th, most municipalities come out with a emergency preparedness plan. And they have little seminars that homeowners and business owners can come in and attend and learn more about the resources that they have there available that are free to the community.
So people should really actively look for those. And I know, I mean, I live in Florida too, so I know like around June
Yes,
1st, you start
yes,
seeing whether it's online on social media or on the local news, what everybody starts
right,
talking about it and what you should be doing.
right.
And I think taking the time to find out when those seminars are, I think it's worth going. You know, it's
It
kind of like the
is,
saving the money, like we just said, the 2 to 3%. It's worth a few hours of your time to educate
it is.
yourself to be prepared.
Right. And
You
so
know,
if you get those publications in the mail, don't just throw them in the trash. Just if you don't want to read it, just kind of glance through it because in there you'll see certain workshops that might be available that are upcoming, and you can just go and attend those, right?
mhm.
And so it's there, right there, for you.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, as part of that preparedness, you mentioned in the book like some physical barriers. I believe you mentioned the owner of a boutique in the book that because she invested in what was it like flood barriers that,
Yes,
and I believe it was a couple $1,000s and it ended up
yes.
saving her $50,000 in merchandise. Can you tell us a little bit about that and some of the physical preparedness
Right,
strategies
right.
people can employ?
Absolutely. So, yeah, you can, things as simple as sandbags, you can use those, which are free, right? But you can also buy like modular walls that you can attach or connect together, right? And they can create a water barrier around your establishment, right? So that you can the floodwaters can bypass your establishment, right? You can also retrofit your business by just putting down like some anti-mold uh, carpeting or underlayment, right? That will, if it gets wet, right, it won't grow all this mold.
Yes,
You
that's
can
another huge
also,
problem in Florida. Sorry.
yes, yes, absolutely. You can have retrofit your utilities where you can put your electrical sockets a little higher up
Oh,
from
wow.
the floor, yeah, from the ground, and just put them up higher, right? And that will help. And it doesn't cost much at all to have that done. And just also, you know, buy stackable stands where if you have merchandise, you can possibly put that merchandise up a little higher from the ground floor, and just little things like that.
Sure.
I found really help small businesses overcome these
Yeah.
disasters.
And one thing I have to say about hurricanes versus earthquakes, at least with a hurricane, I mean, they're devastating, no doubt about it, but you do have time usually to prepare. They don't usually just happen
Right,
in a
right,
heartbeat the way an earthquake does. So I think,
right.
I mean, if we have to be hit with a hurricane, at least you do have some lead time and using that time wisely. And I had no idea that you could actually move the electrical
Oh yeah,
up I
yes,
didn't even know about all these, you know, all the things you mentioned in the book, like the flood
yes,
barriers and things like
yes,
that. So,
yes.
I mean, it's pretty amazing that we have those things now.
It is. It is. And you know, along with talking to your local uh, community leaders, right? They can also tell you some of the things that may have worked for businesses in your area, right? Because location is important. And so you want to talk to people that may have had experiences in that location, especially if you are a new business, right? And you are new to the area, right? Experience is the best teacher. And you want to talk to people that can give you tips on what they've done to survive. You can also talk to insurance adjusters or agents that have experienced working in that region or in that area, right? Because they know the area and they can help you out also with your planning, right? So there are vast number of resources at your fingertips, but you have to reach out and be proactive in finding these resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Proactivity is definitely the key here.
It
And also
is
just recognizing that I think you need to be proactive, if that makes sense. Because again, going
right,
back to that mindset where, if you have a vested interest, certainly a business has a vested interest in not only surviving, but thriving. So,
right.
but Harry, like what in your experience kind of distinguishes, because I'm still trying to understand why a small business owner, aside from finances, like what prevents them from taking these proactive measures? And what are some qualities of business owners that do take these proactive measures? Like, have you noticed what separates the two?
It's the mindset. It's the mindset, and it goes back to that theory of planned behavior. It's the behavior, right? And a lot of times, if you are in a community that has not experienced a lot of storms, but you get a lot of warnings, right? That can, you know, breed a little bit of complacency
Hmm.
because it's like, okay, here we go again. We got this cone of uncertainty, but the last 24 hours, the cone changes and the storm bypasses us. So why should I plan? Because in the
Yep.
last 10 years, I haven't had an issue. And so that breeds, uh, you know, the I guess the sense of complacency and not
Yeah.
being proactive, right? Because oh, here we go again, and nothing happens. I bought all of this stuff, all of these supplies, and now what I'm gonna do, So I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. It's just people not believing that 100-year storm may be 1 year away.
Yeah, so it's basically human nature, I guess, what we're dealing
Yes,
with.
yes, and
But
it's
yet
hard.
it only takes one storm to just
It only takes one, right?
devastate one business or one community even.
Right,
So
right,
yeah, it's kind of crazy. Now, in terms of like in terms of help from local and state, maybe federal governments, what can small businesses do to position themselves, like to put themselves in a position where they have a greater chance of receiving funds if they do need the help? Let's say they've done all the preparation, they've been saving money, but maybe they do need some help from the local, state, or federal government. What can they do to make that a reality or increase their chances?
right. So they can possibly contact FEMA and other organizations like that and just let them know, hey, I'm a small business owner. I'm in a, flood prone area, or I'm in a coastal area where, we've had storms in the past, and I just want to let you know that I'm out here, and just start creating a dialogue with them, and especially with your local emergency preparedness office. You want to make sure you connect with them and create some type of uh, you know communication with them. Let them know that you're there,
Hmm.
and they will respond accordingly. And I know my mom used to say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so you just have to make yourself known and
Yeah,
visible to these organizations.
that's true. Boy, that sounds like something that should be on the checklist for a new business owner too. Like, on the to-do list. Like, get in touch with these people, my local preparedness, and
Especially
and
new
just
businesses.
yeah,
Yes, especially new businesses,
let them
because
know I'm here.
you're new to the community, and so you want to talk to the experienced business owners in the area. You want to talk to your local council leaders, your local public safety leaders. You want to connect and plug in to to those resources as
Yeah,
a new business owner.
absolutely.
Yes.
So Harry, what if people listening today, especially if they're small business owners, if they could make one mindset shift as a result of listening to our interview today, what would you want that to be?
I would want them to be proactive and preparing for the what ifs, because I
Yeah.
think that is so important, is to start and just change your mindset, change your employees' mindset on the possibility of some type of natural disaster, whether it be fires, floods, or whatever. You want to start thinking in terms of the unexpected. And I think if you start there, right, you will end up in a much better place than someone that does not have that on their radar at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
I mean, I highly recommend that any business owner, um, especially in Florida, but really anywhere in the country, I mean, there's always an area that deals with some kind of disaster, whether it's tornadoes,
always.
earthquakes, hurricanes. I'm going to give the name of the book again. It's called From Vulnerable to Victorious: How Small
Yes.
Businesses Can Survive and Thrive After Disaster. And Harry, you already have multiple five-star reviews. And what I love about this book too, it's not just a book that you read, it's also a reference book. um, it's an action plan. It really kind of takes you step by step through, as a business owner, everything you should do. I mean, from making that mindset shift to, okay, here's practical things I can do, and write down and prepare my business. Because again, like we said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and you want to be
Right.
ready.
And I will add too that in addition to those things that you mentioned, it's also a academic research document that have real live case studies of five businesses that survived these natural disasters, right? And so you, if as a new business owner, you may not have the experience, but you can lean on these five case studies of people that have experienced it so that you can at least understand, what it takes to survive, right? Just because you don't have the experience doesn't mean that you can't go talk to people that have already experienced it. And in this book, I bring all of that to you through a academic research study that has five different case studies of successful, um, successfully surviving natural disasters.
Yeah, it's excellent because it's like inspiring, it's reassuring, and it's also practical. So you, as a business
Right,
owner, you read about these other small businesses and how they
right,
survived and thrived, because it's not just about survival, it's about like thriving afterwards.
exactly,
And it's
exactly,
reassuring. I mean, even me, I don't, I actually, well, I'm in my own business, but I'm not a brick and mortar. So, I mean, I work
right,
remotely, but I mean, if I
right.
had a brick and mortar, I mean,
Hmm.
I found that very reassuring. And to
Yes,
be able to learn from other people, I mean, like you said,
yes,
experience is the best teacher.
yes, yes, yes. And I will add to what I found extremely extraordinary is that a lot of the small businesses, when they were going through these disasters, especially like Hurricane Matthew, they went to each other's aid, even though they may be competitors. During this
Yeah.
disaster, they came together. One business owner said, "Yeah, my phone system went down, everything went down. I couldn't contact my distributors, I couldn't contact anybody, but my competitor down the street allowed me to come in and use their phone service so that I could contact my distributors to maybe get some things rerouted or whatever they needed to do to circumvent that situation." And so that those type of things I found fascinating because I never thought about a competitor helping another competitor. I thought, hey, let your business go out of business and that's more clients or customers for me, but it was not that. Human nature kicked in and they really helped one another, which was
Wow.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's the sort of thing that restores your faith in humanity, because we see so
Exactly,
many bad things, especially like on social media, and just
exactly,
people doing really bad and stupid things. And you hear a
right,
story like that and you realize, you know what? Wow, there is a lot of good still.
yes,
in the country and in the world. So,
Yeah.
well, Harry, I want to thank you for writing such a wonderful book. Like I said, it's a guide. It's also sort of explains the reasonings behind why human beings behave the way they do, and in this
Yes.
context of
Yes.
preparedness or not being prepared.
Right.
It's a practical guidebook. There's strategies in there you can learn from other businesses. Just really want to thank you for putting that out there. Do you have any other words of wisdom or parting words for any business owners listening to our interview today?
Yeah. I would say the one word I would like to leave with everyone is to be resilient, right? You want to persevere and just try to lock in uh, what it takes to be resilient. Because if you are resilient, you can overcome natural disasters.
Yes, absolutely. May not be able to control when or how they happen, but you can certainly
Right.
control, you can be prepared and ready
Yes.
to, in terms of how you deal with it and how you
Yes.
survive and thrive afterwards. So you can go
Definitely.
from vulnerable to victorious.
Yes.
I love that. Well, everyone, please go to Amazon. I'm going to put the links in the show description. Purchase Harry's book. It's available in Kindle, but I actually would recommend paperback because you can write right in there all your notes. Share it with your employees. That's another great thing, Harry, that they
Yeah.
should
And
do.
it has an action plan inside the book. So you can literally go in and either copy it or write your action steps down in the book. I have like maybe two or three plans that are in the book
That's
that you can
excellent.
fill out.
So I highly recommend getting it in paperback then.
Yes.
Absolutely, because you can really, it becomes like a workbook then in that
Yes.
case.
Yes.
And,
Exactly.
and hey, I mean, I think it might be a good idea to get a few copies for your most trusted staff and your employees so they have
Yes.
something to refer to as well.
Absolutely.
So, and Harry, man, you yourself are an inspiration. So thank you for
Oh,
all the good you
thank
do
you.
for the world. And I mean, my gosh, in your impressive career and just everything you do to try to build up strong communities and demonstrate that resilience. I really appreciate you joining me today on True Voice Unfiltered.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure,
All
for
right,
sure.
everyone. So this is Harry Kemp, Dr. Harry Kemp. Please buy his book, From Vulnerable to Victorious. I will put the links again in the description. And Harry, best of luck with the book, and I hope you'll come back again.
Yes, I'll be happy to come back. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. You're
Take
welcome.
care.